think we are good to go.
Cool,
All
cool.
right, cool. Let me double check all of this stuff real quick and you'll have to refresh.
Cool.
All right, cool. Can you check the audio real quick?
Check, check, 1, 2. Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Turn up here. All right. All right, we're
Can we
good.
have you talking to your mic?
Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, shit's up.
Go
Probably.
up just a little bit.
Um. All right. I think we are good to go.
Cool.
Cool. How are you doing?
Good. Good, good, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. We're kind of excited. We've ever since we started this, we always talked about trying to get you on here, just because we're both libertarians. Just to bring someone on, especially local.
Yeah. Well, and I've definitely followed your page for a while, so it is cool to finally meet you, and it's been cool to see you kind of start tying in your politics into it, like in your campaign and whatnot. And I think that's going to be a really cool thing.
Man, thank you. Thank you. Seriously.
So yeah, we're
No, it's good to have more people because that was the reason why I started Liberty ICT. Was at first when I looked through Facebook, I was like, "There's not really any libertarian points of view, support, or anything like that." So one day I would just decided to put a design out there, put a page out there, and now it's grown into what it is. So
yeah.
it's really cool.
I remember when you threw that page out there, because I think I was friends with you for a little bit before you started it.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I was kind of doing a lot more on that with my personal page, and then a couple people were like, "You need to slow down on that one."
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, "Okay, that is kind of probably true." So it was just something, like I said, once I started to search through, I didn't see anything informational wise or political wise for libertarians. So
yeah.
Well, that's what I thought was when you said that was actually interesting, is right about the time that I had actually seen your page and started following it. I kind of had the same thought. There's not really a lot of libertarian stuff that's being put out there, other than if you follow Rand or Ron Paul, really, or Thomas Massey.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's not a lot. So it was really cool to see your page come up when it did, because it was kind of right as I started to get into a lot of libertarianism in general. So
it's awesome to hear. Man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So I guess we can get into sort of your campaign, and maybe we can have you talk about some of your what you're kind of wanting to tackle if you get into office, and what your main concerns are really with the community.
Definitely with the community. I do believe we
Hold
have
the mic a little closer.
Cool, like that.
Yeah, you should be good. Yeah.
Cool. Definitely on some of our ends, our taxes are very high, especially for Kansas. And since this is my first time getting my foot in the door of any office or running for any campaign, I'm still learning the process as I go. One of them, though, I am trying to attack is the sales tax on food, water, our basic necessities, medicine as well. It does here in Wichita have a sales tax of 7.5%. We are one of the highest. Not even California has sales tax on food, so they kind of look at us like, "Man, you guys have taxes on food." I mean, they have taxes on everything else, but
yeah. We're being honest. Yeah,
I know the taxes fluctuate, but for Kansas to be one of the highest and to technically be a blue state at the moment is kind of blue likes high taxes, but it's still, even before, they were just as high. And so that's one thing I'm looking at getting at. I do personally don't believe in the income tax. I believe in Ron Paul, 50% of them 50% of people don't pay sales taxes, and it should be about 50% more that shouldn't either.
Yeah.
It is one of the biggest stuffs I don't like. But like I said, as getting in the door, I do want to take the sales tax on food because I believe that will help the individuals, lower class, middle class, and even upper class. Everyone will benefit off of it. A lot of individuals only think it's a couple cents here or there, but that really adds up at the end of the day, especially if you ever scrounge for a couple dollars, or if you're really tight. I've been tight before to where it was either I do my laundry this day or do I buy some snacks from the dollar store, and vice versa. So I know how that pressure can be on some people, and I do want to attack that first.
Yeah, well, that's like, I do think it's very interesting that like you talk about like the tax, especially on food and pharmaceutical, because like especially pharmaceutical, that's a big topic now. Of a lot of medicine is really, really high priced now. So a sales tax, even on top of that, is, I mean, you're losing a lot of money at that point. And
yeah, it definitely adds up over time. Seriously. Yeah. And but yeah, just like what you said, the more government that is in it, the more it does add up in pricing. So yeah, that's why I'm definitely for less government in our healthcare. A lot of people do not agree with that, but
yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing, because the hardest part for me is like arguing healthcare with people, especially in the libertarian standpoint. It is a hard argument to make because so many people are really switching towards wanting Medicare, a universal healthcare. Really,
yeah, that's. I feel like that's unfortunately going to be inevitable. If especially if libertarians can't get in soon, eventually it will be a universal healthcare system.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of working in that way towards it, and it's not just either the Democrat side; it is a bipartisan.
Yeah, that's especially Medicare for all. That's been like the main thing that I've seen it. You know, obviously Medicare isn't quite the universal healthcare, but it's a foot in the door. In that direction.
I mean, both parties still work for it, and that's, like I said, something that I definitely disagree with at the end of the day. So
yeah.
But besides that, that on the sales tax, legalization on some stuff, marijuana, of course, I definitely want to see it legalized. Medical or recreational, there's no difference. It's all the same.
Yeah. I mean, people are gonna go get their medical card regardless.
The medical card to me, though, I feel it's kind of a push to get just more money and income for the state. At the end of the day, like I said, they call it medical, but it's still the same thing. If it's recreational, it's still going to be from...
Still medical.
Yeah, it's still medical regardless. For anyone, no matter what they use it for. I've known individuals that were super bipolar, and they were just angry people, but when they had a little bit of THC, it calmed them down. And I know a lot of other people that use it for serious medical reasons, too.
Yeah.
So...
Well, yeah, that's what's interesting. I don't know if it was your page or maybe another libertarian page that I follow, but they had mentioned that, you know, even back in the 70s that they had known that it was like marijuana was a good cure for seizures, for like, say, epilepsy. Yeah. And that's like a main thing that it's really pushed for is like even in CBD oils, just having some THC in that can help a lot with seizures for people with epilepsy.
Yeah, they really didn't do too much for the individual. I forgot her name, sadly, but they made it a big ordeal when they passed a law saying that you can go out of Kansas to purchase your marijuana, and you're allowed to come back, but you have to have this card, and to get it, it was just a long wait process, a lot of paperwork. And
isn't it like max like 3% THC?
Yeah, it's max like THC. I mean, it was very restricted to where I mean, it wasn't as big a deal as they were trying to push at the time. I believe that was about a year ago now.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a while back. This is like right after Colorado just legalized. But I remember seeing something that KBI came out and said that they're not going to allow marijuana to be legalized for revenue purposes. No. I remember specifically reading that, whether it was KWCH 12 or K came out and said it, or came out and wrote it. I specifically remember hearing KBI, Kansas Bureau of Investigation, local Fed boys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Trouble.
It's very disappointing that it hasn't been passed sooner, because like when I worked at Americans for Prosperity, there was a roundtable or like kind of an event we organized for criminal justice reform. But one of the big talking points was obviously marijuana legalization, because that is a huge part that I can't remember if it's 50% is just nonviolent drug offenses or 50% is specifically more just marijuana nonviolent drug offenses, but it makes up a huge part of our actual prison population, and obviously America's number one in prison population. So it was really disappointing, because when we were at that event, a lot of them seemed like they were actually moving in that mindset, and there are a lot of the same people who are still in office right now, but a lot of them really just haven't pushed for it. And
No,
obviously
it's
Governor
not
Kelly
pushed,
ran
yeah.
saying she would
You would
do
legalize
medical
it.
marijuana, but
Oh,
it was
yeah.
really kind of like a facade.
Only if it came across your desk.
Yeah.
So-
And I believe people have thrown it out there to her, and of course, you guys see it all the time on every local news station. They're putting polls out. Would you vote
Constantly.
yes or no? And it's constantly. And
It's
Yeah.
a constant yes. It's a yes every single time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wish they would just allow things for the just let the people
Yeah.
vote.
Actually choose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just sad because the state itself is wanting to see other states, and they see how these go, and they're using statistics, but I can't talk statistics that I don't really believe show the facts.
Yeah.
And some stuff like bow, bow. Like one ordeal was, well, it's causing more car accidents in some cases, which
Yeah, I've seen that because I've been seeing advertisements recently, like when I'm on Hulu or YouTube,
And this
talking
is
about that.
when
Like there has been DUI.
we're just
DUI's
oh
been
yeah,
going
I
up.
seen that too when I was in Florida, but that was when legalization was first starting over there in Colorado. It was
Yeah.
like, well, everyone's going to Colorado right now, and
Yeah.
it's filling up. So
Yeah, and
Not
it's probably worse now that Oklahoma now has recreational, and as long as you're 21, you can get a recreational card
Yeah.
pretty easy for the most part. So,
no,
I don't even think you need a recreational card.
no, I just
or not
just
a,
go,
or a
medical
medical card. Sorry,
medical,
not
yeah.
recreational. Yeah,
I was like, what?
yeah.
Yeah, and my view on marijuana too for the legalization, I have my own little metaphor. I like to look at it as that we should take it like tomatoes.
Mhm.
I don't know if you ever heard of the tomato method, but long story short, everyone can profit off tomatoes. Tomatoes make many products, ketchup, tomatoes themselves, anything and everything you can cook with it. Individuals that run big businesses have become successful with tomatoes and what they use for it. Farmers themselves sell tomatoes themselves, and individuals grow it themselves and have it. So I believe marijuana should be done the same. And every individual that can grow it from their house, and just like tomatoes, you should be able to grow as many as you want. So you shouldn't have a count on marijuana plants. As well as going as farmers, they can farm their own plants, and as well as big companies. If you don't want to grow your own, or you don't want to go to a farmer, there'll be plenty of local spots that have that. So everyone usually does benefit from it, especially the marijuana and how much money it brings in at every state.
Yeah.
And this is the one where people think I'm a little off on the legalization part of it. Everyone wants to see high taxes on it. They're like, tax the shit out of it. Excuse my language.
Oh, no, that's
Actually,
fine.
someone just said, "Are we talking about that potty mouth?"
But no, everyone looks for like I said, this is my personal point of view on it. Everyone wants high taxes on it. Me, like I said, I would almost like to see zero taxes on it. And the reason
Yeah,
why
I mean-
on that is what Kansas needs itself as a state, we don't need to charge the people more money to bring in the revenue. We need to actually attract more people from the outside. And what they're trying to do with the state and stuff is build baseball fields, build local areas, and it looks nice, but it's taking a lot of our tax money. And there's not anything that's bringing that
I want
money
to bring
in.
up that tax, make up for it.
That's the argument, though.
Yeah.
And where I come in with that is, me personally, I've driven all around Kansas now for my job. I install GPSs for big companies. Some places live out in the middle of nowhere where I have no signal out
Nice.
there. So there's so much land. There's so many farmers. I would like to see the lower tax end of it to none, to where we can bring in more people. Kansas is in the middle of the United States, so people from Colorado, from California, can bring their stuff over to the Midwest. Process goes over to the West, East Coast, whichever wants to send their
Yeah.
stuff, North, South. I think it would really benefit and bring more people into the Kansas state to produce marijuana, and I believe it could be one of the biggest states to produce marijuana.
Oh yeah.
I agree. I mean, we talk about marijuana, but I mean, we could also hemp is used for
Hemp,
so much.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could
Hemp as well.
hemp can be as strong as steel.
And there's many things hemp are used for houses, but yeah, it can. The list goes on, and
Yeah.
the hemp business itself would just blow up.
It
so.
would. Farmers would make much more money now, or then than they are now.
And at
And-
the end of the day, a lot of people are like, well, Colorado's doing this in taxes, this state's doing this in taxes. Well, Kansas is dead center in the United States, and there's nothing there. We can connect with the farmer,
Yeah.
and that's
Yep.
how money gets start bringing into our state to get our revenue up.
Yeah, well, that's like, like you said, like we could definitely be a big place for it because we are obviously like an air capital of the world here in Wichita.
That too, Air Capital.
Kansas City is a big place, like say for going to Illinois, which obviously like is now legal there, or really anywhere across like the upper northwest or
I mean,
northeast.
Missouri's medical, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so now.
So,
Okay,
yeah, I mean, I don't think Nebraska has anything yet. I think there's stuff that went across there.
but they're still
That's-
fighting on it. Yeah, I don't
I know-
think there's any.
If
think
I'm
they might
correct,
have-
I think they tried to sue Colorado. Might have been South Dakota. They tried to sue Colorado because they legalized it because it was coming in the state.
Yeah, I was hearing some states was getting ready to, or wanted to sue about that.
There's nothing you can do. I mean, there's not actual physical borders. You
Yeah.
drive across and now you're in a different place.
Yeah. Sadly, a couple miles here, 10 miles, 20 miles, and then the laws are tremendously different.
Which
Yeah.
is crazy. I mean, just because you walked across, or you drove to another different area of the country, now you're subject to completely different laws.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like I don't know. I think with like marijuana, it's hard because I think some people still associate it like with being closer to like crack, heroin, or stuff like that. That's very hardcore rather than alcohol, which anybody who's consumed it realizes it's about the same, if not less, at some points. To be honest, on how you're using it, and
Yeah.
there's a lot more you can control. I feel like you can have with it than say alcohol.
Oh, with marijuana? Yeah. I've had a little argument. It wasn't really an argument. It was just an individual's like, they really are for marijuana, and they're like, well, but they definitely drink a lot. Let me throw that out there. And they're like, oh, I've seen guys on marijuana, just all losing. I was like, buddy, I've seen guys drunk, not able to get off the floor, about to die, puking everywhere. And
Yeah,
at least,
I would rather have the dude who's a little sleepy around me than someone vomit on me, if we're being honest.
a quote, his name will come up, but there's I forgot the gentleman's name, but he said there's two parties. What would you go to if you had to get up for work? Would you rather go to a pop party or an alcoholic party? Pop party, you're usually going to have people hang out, chill, relax, talk about bully, BS or whatever and like that.
Mhm.
Alcohol party, sometimes they get a little hectic and ham. And if you have to wake up in about 5 or 6 hours, I mean, if you're pretty drunk, you're going to have a little bit harder time than you are if you were just having a little bit of or a lot of marijuana.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jesse Ventura, he had an ordeal on that, and he said that.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, that's what's interesting because it's more of something that's like definitely something that's like a relaxer. It like mellows you out a lot, and really that's regardless of whether it's sativa or indica. It's probably just gonna mellow you out. Whereas, I mean, in a lot of cases, you can find that alcohol promotes domestic violence or just
Not necessarily
violence in general.
promotes it, but it
Or it
definitely
happens more often.
enhances.
it happens
Yeah.
within it
Yeah,
enhances. And
Yeah.
I always felt alcohol is more dangerous. And the biggest fact about it is that look it up. There's no deaths on marijuana of any overdose or anything like that. Alcohol deaths a year are through the roof.
Just from liver cancer.
Liver
Not
cancer,
not
yeah.
even if you completely take out the drunk driving accidents and
Over actual overdose.
yeah, or alcohol poisoning, and then you go into you vomit on your, or you choke on your own vomit,
Spirals
Yeah.
down to more and more stuff.
Yeah.
So
which
Yeah.
is ridiculous to me. I'm like, how are you going to not allow marijuana, but you're
But-
gonna allow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, too, it is about money. So
Yeah. It is.
um,
Well, that's definitely for me. I've always thought in my head that a lot of the reason it hasn't gotten pushed federally, or it's like such a long struggle, is pharma. It would
Big
put a
pharma. Oh,
lot of
yeah.
pharma out of business. It would like cut back on definitely the opioid crisis that we have, or at least help that.
Part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
And
that's
you
one
lose a
the
lot of
biggest ones.
revenue from the prison system if you get
That-
rid of marijuana too.
That's
So
The
Problem-
victimless crimes, yes.
yeah.
Speaking of victimless crimes,
There we
have
go.
you been down Cave 15 heading north, getting on like 135? Have you seen the billboard that says buying sex is not a victimless crime?
Oh no, I haven't.
Yeah, it's they talk about prostitution, and
Oh, yeah.
I saw it. I was like, I can't believe they fucking put that there. And now, like every day I
I
drive
might have
past
to
it.
drive past that and look at that. No, I didn't
Yeah,
know about
it's
that.
it's a big old billboard that says buying sex is not a victimless crime. And I mean, if prostitution, if it's by their own will, I mean, it's
Yeah, that's the goofy part. I mean, you can't steal from the government if they don't have their money into it. Just like what's the difference from porno to two individuals making consent deal.
Yeah.
And there's been videos of Ron Paul during his debate where sex workers where it's legal in some areas in America
Mhm.
were all for it because it actually does protect them.
Yeah.
being
Especially if you-
legalized.
I mean-
so there's like
testing,
have to
you have to go through a business.
place, there's ramps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much safer. There's bodyguards everywhere. not just gonna grab a bitch and
Yeah,
take
no,
her.
no. The stuff, the individuals can say no. They're not forced to do things because it is a business, and if they are, they would have like I believe in the free market, the opportunity to
Yeah.
leave and go to another place of business that either
Right.
does the same or different. So.
Yeah, well, that's like one of the.
No individual can own other individual under like their
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like, like another big problem with it is like I think the statistic is 8 or 9 out of 10 sex workers that you find have probably been sexually abused during their line of work.
Nah, and
From somebody that they thought that they was a customer, and it ended up becoming a terrible experience. Whereas if
oh,
you
yeah, I can
make it
imagine that.
part, like you regulate it, you bring it into the market, and you make it, legal, that doesn't really happen as much because they're not sitting in the worst parts of town. It's not a dead end job. It's
Yeah.
just somebody chose they wanted to do it.
It's
a consensual thing.
Two adults. I mean, if they say yes, it's their business. It's nothing to do with the government at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
so.
OnlyFans now, which is huge, is
Blown up.
not
It's
much
completely-
different. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not sex, but it's selling anything
on
with
the
it,
internet.
selling sex.
And
So.
realistically, it's just still a taxable income if the government wants to come in
Yeah.
and pay on this shit.
Yeah.
But the overall, the prostitution part of it shouldn't be illegal. The thing that is saddening too is a lot of times when they do these things, they never, and this is not to point out women or men, but the poor gentlemen, their faces are definitely plastered all over local websites. And I mean, I understand they're trying to hide the identity of the females, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be, you don't need to blast these people. It's their choices. I mean, even if they're in a relationship or not, it's not the government's job to be the relationship boss.
Yeah.
in that
No,
nature.
absolutely.
But I mean, sadly, hopefully that doesn't happen with most people. These are just individuals that are just looking for something, and then and it's consenting. But yeah, it does ruin a lot of people's lives for that, and that's the crazy part too. Is if you do a porno, there's just more paperwork for it. Government makes it income. Now
And it's just
legal.
on video.
No, yeah,
That's-
and it's video.
Yeah, like Mia Khalifa was only in the porn industry for like 2 months, only made like $5,000 or something,
Mhm.
and like she still gets like shit on it. The
She
government
made,
still
like,
makes
12
money
grand.
off of her.
Mhm.
She's still getting money taken from her. So.
Yeah. Even though she's left the industry and stuff, so it's like,
See, I didn't know that, and that's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, she only made 12 grand in like 3 months,
Yeah, I was like, it's something.
Yeah.
which really $4,000 a month. I mean, for the average person, that's quite.
Oh yeah.
That's quite a bit of money to
But yeah,
bring in.
now she's just a
But
sports commentator. But
She's a sports commentator.
It
Yeah,
pretty
I think
much
she has
just
a
follows
YouTube
around.
channel. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's doing just fine in a ways, but
Do this for like women and for people of color too right now. Which is
Yeah.
really cool. So
That's cool.
she's like using the fame she got of people making fun of her to like do
Get
some
big.
good stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
So I'm also kind of curious, what actually got you into like libertarianism in the first place? Was it Ron Paul, pretty much like most people, or
Yeah, you'll say definitely Ron Paul was the one that pushed me through. I've read majority of his books. My biggest one, and I do tell anyone that if they're interested to look into libertarianism, the shortest and easiest book to look through is In the Fed.
Mhm.
One of my top favorites. But personally, the one thing that kind of got me, when I was, it's probably been about 5 years since I was when I really got into politics. I've been fighting professionally now for about 5 to 6, and
Okay.
when I first did my first professional fight, all your amateur fights you're never really paid. You might get a little something underneath the table. Like I got $100 one time. They're like, "Good job, buddy." You got some respect. That's about it.
Yeah.
But when I first started fight professional, my very first fight, they gave me a tax form, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to fill this out and give it to us when we're done." I'm like, I know I'm making some money now, but so I mean, I know the process. I still did it, but to me, when you train professionally for a fight, there's a lot of tough times into it. Dieting, not a lot of time with your loved ones, your child, if that. You're at the gym constantly getting ready for it. Expenses for your gym, your coaches, food, if there's travel and anything like that. Well, when you're pro, they do definitely help you out. But me getting taxed for going in a cage and fighting an individually, physically, and me getting physically hurt, taking damage, and then having good government come in and say, "Hey, we need this percentage of that income."
it's like, what did you do?
Exactly. I was just like, what? I want all this money. Like, you didn't do anything for this money. And that was one thing that kind of pointed me to the direction of libertarianism, because when it came down to the president run for Hillary and Trump, things at my previous gym that I'm not at now kind of happened, and I did miss a lot of gym time. I was literally technically living at the gym.
Oh wow.
It was
Okay.
I was upstairs living at the gym, small little, excuse my language again, shithole place. The windows were busted. There's bugs that could come through. My stuff wasn't fully unpacked.
Mhm.
I just had a mattress, my cover, my cat, and my wife at the time, or my girlfriend, wife now. She would always come at the time, and you could just see this disgust in her face. She was like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, you've done better than this." And this is when I was really going for the fight life, and I mean, I still am for sure, but I was sacrificing a lot to be there at the gym, teach, be a part of it, but things fell through and whatnot. So I got a lot of time to getting into Ron Paul, reading books, all of his books, YouTube videos. I mean, you can find a ton of YouTube videos. Austrian economics, something else I spiraled down upon.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of other individuals that are libertarian, that Rothbard. There's I can go down the list guys that really inspired me, but Ron Paul was definitely the man. And going from there, I didn't really even know him, and when his running for presidency, I didn't know it at that time. And so just I was like, geez, he was running just a couple years ago, and just knowing that, and like I said, and from training to just reading books all day, staying on YouTube, living at the house. I mean, I still worked out, but I really wasn't fighting for the time being. But that's what kind of kicked me off to being more for a libertarian, and then I really wanted to get my foot to the door. And like I said, that's when I kind of got started with Liberty ICT. I'd probably say about a year later, I was still just political, but just on my page. I was helping Jeff Caldwell campaign, and I was using my campaign, not my campaign, but my just own page to help him support. But yeah, seeing the difference between Trump and Hillary, then learning the difference, or you can say not really any difference between Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
Just like Ron Paul calls them, they're technically the same. I call them authoritarians because they push force and not voluntary or voluntarism for the individual. And like I said, libertarianism can go on and on and on, but I spent hours YouTube and books, and it really got me where I'm at now. And now I'm actually running for office.
Well, what drew you to actually want to do that? Is it just because of how you had seen things going around here, and it just pushed you to want to just get your foot into a full-on like office position? Or
I mean, practically I was just really into it. And then with the page, I noticed a lot of I noticed the page, there was a lot of individuals that did support it, even when there was just like 500 to 1,000. I was like, holy moly. And then when it got up to a 5,000, I was just like, I might have a chance and have a connection with some individuals here in town to get pushed in there. And I did meet with the Libertarian Party of Kansas about 2 years ago. We had a meeting, older individual, awesome guy. We talked for a while, and then we met a couple more times during some meetings, and then he made me into a deputy, is what they call it, which is someone that's underneath the district coordinator. And then I actually am the district coordinator for District 4, which is Wichita, from the Libertarian Party of Kansas. So anyone that's interested in the Libertarian Party, please message me, and I will definitely get you the information. They jump on for our meetings.
Cool.
With COVID and stuff, I haven't been able to set any like meetings locally in town just because the number of people and stuff and fluctuating and whatnot. So it's been a lot of social, but I joined the party, got that position. I love working with the group there. And then once I got into the party, I was just like, well, I saw Jeff Caldwell run, and I'm not actually running for the state, which is nice because I heard that horror story.
Yes.
When you're running for a state race. So I saw my district and where I lived at, and I was like, that's manageable. I could do that. I had my beliefs. They're pretty firm, set down, and they're consistent. They're the Libertarian Party's beliefs. There's anything that's different, or I have anything personally different, because I agree with it 100%.
Well, yeah, that's what I think is interesting. Is so when I was reading through your palm card, because I noticed you had posted them, like, you know, a lot of it is really just what's around us in the states around us. That's what states around us have. A lot of them don't have taxes on food, or maybe sales tax in general. A lot of them have marijuana legalized and a lot of that other stuff. So it's not really like anything you're pushing is that radical. And a lot of people, I think, always see libertarianism as super radical, and it's like, it's kind of just where people are going. You know, it's the mindset that people are kind of moving to, even if they don't consider themselves libertarian, because some of it is just why is it that way? Why is it not this other way? You know, it's because it just kind of seems dumb sometimes.
Being out there now, I've heard every name in the book from some Trump supporter calling me, "You're just a leftist taking Trump votes away," or the best one was I've been called a dollar store Republican. I've never heard of that one before.
Dollar store Republican.
I was like, credit to you. All right, that's a new one.
Yeah, that's. I don't know how many people from like say the local or like the Kansas Republican Party you have, or how many of those people you follow, but it's just such an old mindset. You can tell that they're really set in the conservative ways, you know, don't really want to change stuff. And so anytime a libertarian who's or maybe somebody who's like a Republican but say a little bit more libertarian mindset, they're just
Not
like
friendly.
witch hunted by the party. And it's like really sad to see, because it's like, I know for a while, I don't know how good your experience with the Libertarian Party has been, but I've heard before that they've been not the greatest. They've kind of are like slow about things, or maybe don't push forward stuff that they should as much. And it could be a lot different now, because I haven't really like looked into it a whole lot recently. But
as it is for our state party, I personally didn't get to go to the convention itself. We had some party members that did. I did catch some of it live on the feed, but I wanted to go to the state convention really bad. It was in Florida, but just couldn't make the trip and whatnot. And I've never been to one yet. But as far as our local meetings, I mean, we do push, we do try on things, but we are very small. We're good number. I mean, we obviously don't have the numbers of D's and R's that are out there running. I think there are about 10 of us campaigning throughout the whole state of Kansas. We got Jason Buckley, Matt Clark, myself, and a couple others. And this year we've actually, from last year, there's a lot more, I mean, of us kind of getting out there and being a lot more active. And it's been a little bit more help. And I think this whole pandemic thing, too, has shaken a lot of people's thoughts on about a Democrat and Republican, and possibly looking at third-party individuals.
Yeah. As much as I really, really want Joe to be the president, the likelihood of that happening is very small. But what I think we will see this election cycle is the actual growth of a third party chance. You know, we'll see larger voting numbers, third party, stuff like that. Even if it's not necessarily just Joe, even if it's Howie Hawkins. I know a lot of people haven't heard of him.
No, not a lot of people haven't even heard of him. And I mean, I don't necessarily agree with his platform and stuff, but it's just still, he should even have a chance, just like the others.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what's interesting, is because when I look through Howie Hawkins' platform and then Joe Jorgensen's platform, I would say a lot of that is like lined up with where most people are now in politics. You know, I don't really feel like the Republican or Democratic Party represent people very well anymore. I don't really feel like most people care about any of the things that either of the party are pushing, but they want their team to win, more or less, you know. And whereas like say with Joe Jorgensen or Howie Hawkins, they're like addressing most of the issues that people are really concerned about. You know?
And that's the thing with running too, is like with my name, I didn't see it a lot at the events, because technically our primary for the third party is small, and we have it within ourselves. Not like Democrat and Republicans like they are now, and they're running hard against each other and fighting each other and spending all this money on that as well. So yeah, we don't get the name out there necessarily, but like with the Liberty ICT page, that has helped tremendously. Yeah. And getting to do stuff like this is definitely gonna get voice out there and get more people to follow through. Yeah. But that's for Joe though. We do have an event coming up, an individual. This was awesome to hear. I had never even heard of this lady, and someone here in Wichita messaged our chairman, and she was like, I want to set up the Sedgwick County Wichita Let Her Speak campaign, which is going to be nationwide, August 8th. We have a good little number on there. There's about 7 vehicles. We're hoping to get a little bit more, so it is going to be in a vehicle. We're just going to jam out. I'll probably have my windows down, blasting her speaking, and we'll have horns honking. We're just going to try to get her name out. What was awesome is I did an interview with KWCH, and I asked them if there's any availability we can get some media on that. And that's the main thing that has been troubling, is just getting any local media. Because I told the journalist I was talking today, I was like, have you ever heard of Joe Jorgensen? And she was like, no, who's that? And I was like, but you've heard of Kanye running? And I was like, you planted his name the first day he said anything. Yeah. I was like, this individual's been running and
been working hard.
Yeah, she's been working hard, and it's very hard to campaign, and I'm learning that in another sense as well. Yeah. And but no, she's doing a lot more work in her way. But we're doing it August 8th. There is an event on Facebook called Let Her Speak. You can find that on Facebook on the search bar, and it should be in the events. But yeah, come out, support. We're hoping to have good media, and if we can actually get local news sites on there, it should broaden up here, especially in Wichita, because not a lot of people know about her. Some people do. I've had some people shout out, "Yeah, Joe Jorgensen," and some crowds. I actually had that happen last night, which is kind of cool during the protest. A Joe Jorgensen voter in that group, so
That's cool.
But just getting her name out in the news stations, I think, would be one thing to help. But like I said, I do understand that just getting her name overall out there, and that's the big part. If we just can get her on the debate stage one time with Biden and Trump,
dude, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be like Conor McGregor fighting to me. Fighting, setting up.
Anything outside of the two-party system.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like at this point, everyone's like, we need like 17 parties. What are you talking about?
And it happens because they bully third parties out of debates.
Ooh.
They're very costly, and they know third parties can't afford some of these because they just don't have the funds coming from the funding that they get.
Yeah, I mean, one of the guys running right now is literally a billionaire. He can fund himself as far as he wants, so it's like...
the fact that you need a certain amount of votes and signatures anyways to be even allowed in some states for ballots is ridiculous. I mean, it's not so bad here, but I mean, other places where there's you've grown up only knowing Republican and Democrat, and you have no idea about the third party, and now you find out that the reason why there's no chance about a third party is because they've been restricting it.
The thing my whole life, especially at high school, because during 2008, that's when I graduated high school in Orlando, Florida, and all I knew was, Obama. Okay, I heard Obama. I kind of knew what his plan was. I was a little political, but not much. I heard the Republican at the time was running.
Was it McCain or Romney?
Yeah. His name was tossed around a little bit, but I never knew anything about libertarianism, and especially when I first moved here about 11 years ago, I never knew anything about libertarianism. It was about 5 years ago now that when I ran across it, it was just like, why haven't I seen this before? I've never heard of this or anyone say these things, and I definitely agree with it now. So
yeah. Well, I guess
it's kind of ridiculous, the fact that the third party is just so fucking strangled, just held down in one position, and you don't fight back. I mean, you don't have a chance. I mean, even if you look at Joe Biden's kind of threatened by Joe Jorgensen because he bought her. So I think Joe Jorgensen's Twitter handle for a while was Joe for President. And then Joe Biden went and bought the domain for Joe for President. Oh God! So that way she couldn't use it.
About this.
And it directed you to his.
It directed you to his campaign site.
I need to get back on Twitter. I haven't been on Twitter in so long, and everyone's like, "Why don't you have a Twitter?" And it's just like, I could barely keep up on my Facebook page.
Yeah,
you need help. I've been getting pretty good at Twitter.
Where the page is coming up now, I mean, I've always did want to keep it myself, and that's how I always did because
you want to be 100% self-managed. I mean,
in a way, but it is growing to the point where I've met individuals like you guys, and I mean, even you before. I've had this stuff going to where individuals on the page that have been there so long, and I can agree with them just as much as I was seeing Ron Paul and some stuff. Because I mean, even when I first kind of started the page, I was still kind of learning some things that other people's point of views, and trust me, it was a whole ballpark once I learned about just individuals from left Marxists, from the right, which were hardcore conservative sides, and just learning them. And so I mean, like I said, it's always definitely a learning experience, but I'm just glad to see where it's growing at the moment, and hopefully Joe, I mean, her name will get out there and get on that debate stage. It's going to be a little tough, but they're memeing their way in there. So.
That's the best thing about Joe is her Instagram feed is nothing but memes.
I've tried to on myself. Like anytime any of the local news stations do it, I need to post it on the page, and I've seen other people do it. It's like, hey, go here, vote, and it's just like beep, 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 beep.
Yep.
And fill it up.
I feel like people at this point, like even the people like high up there, they know she's there. They see her percentages. They're just like, we want to ignore this because.
Oh yeah, the media will do it too.
CNN's been really bad about that recently. That's what libertarianism is growing so big right now that if you go to these Facebook pages, it's nothing but these
Those-
media sites being hate bombed by libertarians coming in and saying, "Where the fuck is Joe at?"
Yeah, exactly. Though, and it's just like the two pick is getting very too old, and
Yeah.
and another quote that I always looked at, and it's always kind of goofy. Jesse Ventura said, "Is the Republicans are they're basically like Crips and Bloods."
Yeah,
Same
they really
Yeah,
are.
they really are.
I feel sad for the gangs themselves that they're kind of so close to them, but it's two gangs that work together to keep any other gang, not saying gang, but any other voice out. I mean, I know that there's a lot of anarchists on my page, and that can be a whole other subject because people are like, well, anarchy's destroying buildings, and I'm like, yeah, that can be an unlicensed girl selling lemonade as well.
Yeah.
So there's a whole debate on that, but
Anarchy's interesting because if you talk to people who are 100% pro anarchy, it's not destroying shit and setting shit on
Well,
fire.
no,
it's
not.
being able to go fucking start farming in
Do
your
what you want.
backyard and like you said, lemonade stands
And
and
I have a good buddy that he definitely leans more that side. I mean, he's happy. He likes libertarians as well, just because, I mean, we are probably the keto diet of government. There is...
Yep.
To be realistic, and people do need to understand that libertarianism, we do believe in government still, but just as Ron Paul said, the only rule of government, and its only rule, is to protect the individual's liberties.
Yeah.
It's not there to safeguard and these individuals are in these subjects because your freedom definitely gives you more of the option to do what you need to do and get done.
Yeah.
Getting your own money, making your own decisions and whatnot. And that goes with two parties and just being government being too nosy, too bossy, and often hurting the people that they try to help.
Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting is, like you even think about that you can't get married without having the government being in it. And really the only reason they're there for you for that purpose is to tax you.
is to generate revenue. The fact you need a
revenue,
marriage license.
Yeah.
I didn't know
me
you
and
needed a
my wife
license.
were hard getting on that license, and I was just like, this is the stupidest thing. I mean, it should be just between us and the church.
Yeah.
And I mean, the government has no job in our relationship
Yeah.
or in our bedroom.
If you want if you want to say the government's, it's okay for the government to be there because if something bad happens to you, it goes to your kids or your significant other. You can make that argument. But the fact it's taxed proves that they're not there for that reason.
Yeah.
And then the taxing part, I mean, anything and everything you buy, I mean, the only thing they still tax air if you need air at the hospital.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, we pay an enormous amount of taxes, and I get a disgusted look at one time. I did interview Whipple and Johnson, and I did bring up my platform about removing the taxes, and they're like, well, what would you replace it with? And I was just like, well, I mean, there's marijuana if we go for the legalization, but at the end of the day, I mean, what would you replace cancer with? I mean, to me, taxation's theft. It's one person stealing from another. It might be for a benefit that looks good, but you're still taking from one individual to give it to that. And who knows what that one individual needed for? I mean, it's their decision for what's best for them or their families on where that money goes.
Mm-hmm.
It should be an opt-out system. Just like how kind of Joe's running with the opt-out Social Security.
You hit that button, opt out. And I mean, so everyone's like, oh, if you want to opt out, get off the roads and this and that. Fine. I mean, if you guys driven in Kansas, dirt roads aren't horrible. And car suspension these days are amazing. All kinds of sweet stuff that
I hate that people use
perfectly.
the road argument as well. Because,
Oh,
they're constantly working on Kellogg and 135 and 235. Have you driven down West Street? or Rock Road, or
that is the main question libertarians get is my roads, and I
Yeah.
hear that all the time. And the one, there's multiple methods that libertarians have brought up. There's not just one. One of them though is the ones that thrives off the roads should help pay for the roads. You have Amazon, all these huge packaging companies. Delivery
Lyft,
companies,
Uber, things like that.
There's numerous names out there, and I mean, no one's gonna want to drive to your business if you don't have a road. But a business over here is working on theirs, and they have a decent road that you can drive on.
Yeah.
So I always feel the individuals that are thriving off the road or in that area of making the income from the road should be the ones to pay for the road. The argument down there is there's also Larry. I'll bring up his last name here in a little bit. It'll hit me.
Larry Sharp.
Yes, Larry Sharp. He has a video, and I'll post it on Liberty ICT later, where he has a couple other methods and ideas about how to make income for the roads that aren't forced. It's voluntary. And I also posted a picture on the page where it said, choose out of the three: tolls, tolls, tolls. One was a goofy one, just create hovering cars, screw roads.
Yeah.
And the other was kind of like the individuals that are incoming from the roads are the ones that are having to pay for the roads.
Mhm.
And it's still going to be an argument that people are not going to want to agree with. I mean, they still believe.
Yeah, I
that-
mean, that's like, at the end of the day, there's some libertarian stances that I'm like, I'm probably not going to get it through to you. Like cutting all taxes, most people are just like, could not ever imagine that ever in their mind. And I get it. It's so ingrained into society at this point. It's kind of hard to just say, let's just get rid of all that and change all of society.
You bring that up, and a lot of things come in, and also like infrastructure.
Yeah,
or
but it's
anything.
like, I mean, even like minor changes, like say like tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, any of those get taxed, but you also have a sales tax on top of just the general tax on it. And it's like, well, why do you need 3-4 taxes on that one thing?
The goofy thing about taxing on the tobacco was they raised it a little bit higher, to prevent people from paying for it. And it's just, I mean, people are still going to pay for it at the end of the day. And I mean, if you're still going to create tax on people for their work or what if they produce, I mean, where's the difference from the tobacco part of it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's like you can't prevent somebody from doing something that's going to ruin their life. It's hard to literally sit here and be the mom of everyone because it's not your job. If somebody's ruining their life, they're ruining their life.
People don't realize how actually controlling the government is. I don't know. This is a dumb thing, but when I went to the doctor, they told me that if I got pregnant, it could be a danger to me and the child I have. But also, I can't get my tubes tied unless my partner or the government tells me I can after I'm 28 though, or have 2 kids. So it's like, so you're telling me it can be dangerous, but I also can't do it until I'm 28, or I've already had 2 children, which I can't do in my 40s. So it's like,
I could die, but I can't take the preventive measures.
And that's one topic that's huge also with libertarians, are people that they assume that we just think that, it's going to be lawless, there's not going to be anyone helping each other, or there's nothing to protect or anything of that nature. Well, you do have the Second Amendment for protection, but there's also community get-togethers, especially now. People should realize there's so many individuals that are building community groups, helping each other, putting more focus on each other than having the government support them, that it's kind of showing the proof of it also, which is the kids staying at home and learning. That could be a whole other topic that I can go on forever. The homeschooling has also kind of probably made people change their mind, especially if they're not feeling safe taking their kids to school or just teaching them or whereabout at the house.
I've noticed more and more now, and I don't know if it's the left or the right bringing it up, but the school choice. I've noticed that's more and more becoming a, why can't people choose to move these kids from these bad schools to a little nicer school up the road? Why can't we do that? And I've noticed that's becoming more and more of a thing, which is sort of aligns itself with the libertarian standpoint. Libertarians are more separate, privatize it. But it's slowly, which aligns with the pick your fucking
Long story on that. The free market would help with that. What that would do is just open up more business. At the end of the day, everyone's like, well, what about lunching, recess, this and that? You don't have to have a school that gives you a field trip to here. It's technically just a school that, hey, we're going to teach your children this, and this is what you'll pay for us for teaching this. Another school can have a different program. Another school can have multiple programs in a sport team. And when it comes to sports, there's outside of school sports everywhere. There's still football, baseball, soccer, volleyball, jiu-jitsu.
Point that for every student, it's a certain amount of money. And it's if we just gave the family that money to choose the school they would go to, there would never be an issue. It would be the same price as private school.
Oh yeah, and it went along with the post I made, and a lot of people took it a lot because it is a lot, and it sounded like a lot. $250 a week to take a kid to school, but that was just an example, because if you open up a free market, and they're like, they're charging $250, well, I can charge about
$125,
125,
$200, whatever.
I probably have a smaller building, but I have probably, just say this person has 20 years in schooling, they've been teaching, they might have a smaller business place, but they're only going to charge $125. The education will still be the same. It's not a little bit better or different.
Think about it like daycares. 1 week at daycare is typically at least $125 per child. So how is that any different than continuing
So
a better education?
Yeah.
So the 250 was a high mark, but it was just I know the main point of it was to prove a point where if you open up a free market, the price is going to change because of the services that you get from the provider and how much you're willing to pay for what you want.
Yeah, and that's been like, because I definitely agree with you on the whole, like, I'd privatize all education. I'd get rid of the Department of Education. I don't really think it's very beneficial. I think it's hurt our education system immensely,
Especially
and that's
with
why
the whole
we're
Common
only
Core system. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
That was
and No
something.
Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind also brought a lot of stuff back in general, and that's
It's like the government's gonna make sure no child's left behind because if they find out there's a kid in the household that's not in school, all hell's gonna break loose. So
Yeah.
it's like, of
Yeah.
course the child's not gonna be left behind.
Yeah, and that's like she was talking about earlier, you know, it costs $15,000 a year to send one student to a public school here. It's $12,000 to go to independent. I think you would probably get a better education at a private school like independent than you probably would at any of the public schools.
Harder and not just say, yeah, I don't really give a fuck. Because even my sister now, she's been bullied, and when I was in school, I had kids kick sand in my eyes, hit me in the face like tether balls, put me in trash cans and stuff. What about the teachers? They don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
It's like,
or teachers don't put
They're
in a
not
lot of
paid
effort.
enough.
If you make it
Yeah.
hard enough, they're actually gonna make sure your kid gets a good education. Because
Yeah.
like every individual is paying you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty sad. My senior year, for probably the last 4 months, I spent in high school suspension for just a couple of stupid reasons.
wow.
Nothing serious, but it was more just the teacher herself. She just, I don't know. She didn't like a couple individuals, and probably I was particularly one of them for whatever reason. For whatever reason. But no, I mean, yeah, public schools, the system itself, it definitely needs to change. And with what's coming up, a lot of individuals it'll be interesting with the whole public school people going in, how many people are going to homeschool, or how many people might just end up saying, hey, maybe I can start a business up here and teach people or teach their kids.
It's crazy that that's the one thing that's not allowed. Daycare, like she brought up earlier, daycares can do it, and worry about the education. I mean, most daycares do some form of education, whether it's just simple reading or it's, you know, color by numbers. You learn to follow these instructions.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that teachers don't have that option.
No.
That, you know, a math teacher, science teacher, English teacher,
simple,
you know.
but-
Yeah. When, like, I don't know, another big problem that I also see sometimes in schools is, like, it's probably just in general because all teachers have, like, public unions.
Yeah.
And so they get lots of benefits that pretty much prevent them from getting fired. But you can find teachers that are either really, really, like, yeah, their tenure, like, they don't care anymore. You can tell they don't care anymore. They're not putting any effort into what they're teaching, but they're still getting a check every year. And it's like,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
let them go. Like,
Show
but they
up,
can't because they've been there for 5-10 years and they're well beyond that limit. And yeah,
no, it's a crazy issue. That
I'll say it. At Goddard, we had a science teacher, and a lot of people didn't like him. They said he would look down at like girls' shirts. They said they felt uncomfortable. There was one day a girl was on her phone, and he started screaming bloody murder, and like 3 girls at that table just started crying because it's like that dad yell. Like if anyone's experienced that, where you're just like. And they went to the principal and they said, like, what the fuck is going on? And he was been reported over and over again. But because his wife was a counselor and people liked his wife, the wife said, well, if you fire him, I'm leaving too. So they kept him. And he was even a vice principal before he was a science teacher. And since he's so enrooted with the school, they're like, well, we have to keep him even though all the girls are uncomfortable in his class. He yells at them. He throws chairs. Like, he's fucking...
And if they want to probably go to a different school, they'd either have to move to get
Yeah.
for the other district, or just have to pay a high amount for.
They'd have to okay. They have to okay a
online,
special.
or homeschool. That would be the better option.
They have to okay a
Yeah.
special
At
transfer.
the academy where you would go next door, and honestly, online school for that works so well for me. You move at your own pace, but it's like
You can graduate early if you want. That's where
what
I
you
went.
have to
That's
do
awesome.
to get away from bullshit at school. Is you have to
Yeah.
go somewhere else where you can't be harassed by students or teachers, and it's like once you get to a part where everyone's intertwined, either they don't believe you or don't care what you say. So
Yeah. There's a company out that I really like. I hope I'm not saying their name wrong, but it's called Tuttle Twins. They
Oh,
have
okay.
educational books for kids and online courses, and I like what they have out there. And I mean, not to give free advertisement, but definitely check those guys out, because if you're looking for homeschooling options and items that get kids interested, and particularly about not necessarily just libertarian, but just in government itself and overall, and it gives more of a libertarian point of view on it, not just what you expect on some stuff. Definitely check them out.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, one thing that's nice about homeschooling that a lot of people kind of overlook, or private education in general, is like, say with homeschooling, like, you know, some kids are obviously more art oriented. They're much more into drama or painting or playing the violin or whatever. You could cater their education in a homeschooling environment to progress on that, and then send them to, say, like Juilliard or Berkeley, or have them become a professional musician or like an artist or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like the best style and stuff, but it took me until I was 20 years old to realize that Audible is the best way I learned. But it's like they could figure that out, and kids could learn, and like they're not just like, oh, your daughter's just a substitute
Audiobooks are the
butterfly,
best.
she's a talker.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe they learn different ways. They need hands-on. They need audio. They can't just stare and say, okay, now do it.
Yeah, and that's definitely the main thing is, you know, you can cater to the student themselves and like actually switch between different styles, like you said, like audible, visual, hands-on, whatever.
I feel like that helps people learn the most. If you can understand it and all.
Yeah, understand it on
Every
your level.
shape,
What's easy for
form
you.
you can, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
then
it goes to like the sports part too, where a lot of people are concerned with parents, and it's just, I always tell them there's always outside sports. There's
AYSO for soccer, or
I
plenty
never
of
did
football
sports in
teams.
school
And
and only did it on the side. Like, I was in soccer.
Yeah, I mean, there were baseball players at Goddard who didn't do baseball through the school. They went through another organization because they're looking for better. It was it's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So-
I guess.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna ask. So I'm just curious about you say you have a tournament coming up, right? Or fight?
Yep.
Okay.
Fighting with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. It was technically scheduled March 14th, way back ago.
It was right about the shutdown.
No, it was technically the day of the shutdown, because we were at a press conference at Mel Hamilton Ford, and we were just talking. David Rickles was up there, my opponent, Joe Wilk, which is a cool dude. Nothing bad against us. This is all business, but we still might talk a little crap. He was last time, so I'm gonna call him a little Joe Exotic next time I see him. Yeah, we were up there and did some interviews. It was awesome. And then I got the word from Rickles that he was like, man, this might get shut down because of this whole COVID thing that's going on right now. And I was like, I kind of hope not. But I already signed a contract, and those contracts are really detailed. And I was like, I am definitely still going to make weight tomorrow, because I'm pretty sure they'll still have us do all that. I got the call when I was in the sauna cutting the last like 3 or 4 pounds, and they were like, the fight's over, sorry. And I was like, what do you mean over? And they're like, the fight's off due to the COVID issue. And I was like, are we still weighing in? Can I eat tonight is the main question. They're like, yeah, you can eat tonight.
So since they let you know cancel, do you have to maintain that through, or did you, or do you?
COVID did make me a little slack off in some cases. So a lot of other individual fighters will say that with the gym closing, I had to find my own little Rocky Balboa style, throwing the bag around, punching it.
Running up the library stairs.
But I did try to keep myself busy with the gym closure, and then once the gyms opened up, got back in immediately. Been training. And they've just been pushing it back. It was scheduled for the 14th of August, then it was the 21st, and now there's a little confusion. They are going to say it tonight, the actual date, I believe, because they made a post earlier yesterday that should let me know that if we're either fighting the 21st or 31st of August at the Intrust Bank Arena, or it's going to be scheduled at another date at another location, because I don't even have tickets yet. And usually we're promoting, throwing tickets out there, doing all kinds of stuff to get our names out as a fighter. And
Just bring in more people, bring in more business.
Yeah, because you make a lot of money off of those ticket sales, so it does kind of hurt when you're like, oh man, those ticket revenue does pull in a little bit of cha-ching.
So have you actually fought at Intrust before? Or is this the first time?
This will actually be my first time at Intrust, which I'm super stoked about.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fucking cool.
I mean, you got huge names on the card: David Rickles, Nico Hernandez. I was very blessed. I fought at Century 2, the Cotillion, Beach Activity Center a couple times. I fought at Mel Hamilton Ford, their parking lot 2 times. Bourbon Bar and Grill on the south side at their parking lot. They threw a cage out there and had us fight. I've been all around Wichita and able to fight everywhere. And then they're like, "You want to fight at the Interest for bare knuckle?" And I was like, hell yeah. Technically, me and my opponent Joe Wilk, we were supposed to fight for Fighting Evolution Championship.
Okay.
And this was when it first got canceled. This was before bare knuckle. And my main reason to fight Joe bare knuckle was because I wanted to fight with bare knuckle fighting championship. But they were just like, "Hey, you two are fighting anyways. Jump on our card." The fight was on a Saturday. I forgot what date exactly. They didn't legalize bare knuckle fighting here in Kansas until the day after.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dang.
And me and my opponent, we were on toes on if we were going to fight the week of fight week, which really sucks because that's when you're just hangry. You're like, can I eat? Can I not eat? What am I eating? I got to work out. I got to do this. I got to do that. And yeah, they shut us down like 3 days before the fight, and then they didn't legalize it, I believe, until it was the day after the fight night happened. So I was just like, come on, guys. But our fight been pushed back a lot, but no, I'm looking forward to it. I've been fighting overall for about 10 years, professionally for about 5. I have an amateur record of 9-3, and my pro record is 3-5. Professional fighters are definitely a lot tougher. There is a difference there in that field. Jiu-jitsu is what saved me and what's helped me in a lot of my fights. Majority of my fights came from submissions, rear naked chokes, or arm bars. Yeah. And that's what I teach at the gym. That
I know some of that just from Joe Rogan.
If you guys can come out sometime, it's fun stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I've ever since I started listening to Joe Rogan, it's kind of piqued my interest a little more. But even before then, it was kind of fucking cool.
The main thing is like I get people are like, "Well, I gotta be in shape," or it looks a little different, or it's just dudes cuddling with each other. And like, no, there's a whole other realm to it, and we have individuals from all ages and sizes that are in there because they find a game, and that's what I love about jiu-jitsu. There's no incorrect part about it. I mean, there's things that you can tighten up and fix, but there's nothing that you can do wrong besides get submitted, of course.
Yeah.
But that's the learning process through the whole ordeal. As you get subbed, you learn, all right, how the hell did that happen? What can I do to fix that? And I've done that with fights. I've been submitted in fights. Sadly, my last couple of fights, I've been dunked on my head, and you don't practice those.
I have my friend Josh. He's an ex-Marine, but he did a lot of jiu-jitsu and shit like that.
Nice.
I think he started out in taekwondo, but that's kind of what got him into it. But I can't count the amount of times she's like, "Hey, let's spar," and throws me across my fucking backyard. I'm like
going at it. The main sports I like to tell individuals, if you ever want to get your kid interested in, and every martial art I give respect to. I did talk smack about one individual, not to his face or anything. I was like, Taekwondo. And I had my first Bellator fight, and we went all 5 rounds. I was to the point where my face was Igor, and I was just like, I'm going to jump forward, and I missed, and then he just pounded my face a couple more. And that was one of the craziest fights that I ever had. And it was here at Wichita at where was that? The casino. I fought it there actually.
Oh, okay,
a bunch
cool.
of times too.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
betting on you.
but no, I mean, jiu-jitsu's fun. I mean, it's a bug. You don't have to be big or strong to do it. Some of the most dangerous guys, you wouldn't even tell that they're dangerous because they're small and scrawny. And I've seen small dudes go after big dudes and just able to work
them out.
Like when I first started, to make it short, is I was 225 and I was doing kickboxing, and I thought that was like, yeah, that's going to give me an MMA and get me tough. And I was 225, and the coach at that time I met, he was only 145, and he just wrapped me up like a doll. I was working out the Y, punching the bag at the gym I was going at, doing all that, and they're like, "Hey, come to jiu-jitsu. You look pretty good on the bag." And then just tied me up, and ever since then it's been like a bug. It was just like, I want to get better at it.
Yeah, always want to get better. Don't want to get embarrassed. Pretty much just always just trying to one up the other person.
You still get tore up, and even I do. I mean, I've been doing it for 10 years. I'm a brown belt, and I still have guys that it looks like Chihuahua fighting a pit bull. I'm just getting dragged all over the floor from these guys. But it's definitely a fun sport to get in, and I mean, bare knuckle is definitely different than jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
A lot of my fights previously, I've gotten into just throwing hands and having fun with that. But I've lost because of getting dunked on my head, because I was like, oh, let's throw some hands, and I should have focused more on the jiu-jitsu part.
Yeah.
But with bare knuckle, I'm excited because now I'm focusing just on hands. And everyone's like, well, bare knuckle is scary and dangerous, and I tell everyone, well, it's bare knuckles, so yeah, it sucks. You have a chance of breaking your hand. You have bare knuckle come to your face because they only wrap up your wrist. But in MMA professionally, if you watch UFC, you have elbows that are not wrapped. You have knees that just crush people's face that are not wrapped. The shin, forearms, and Conor McGregor introduced it to Cerrone with the shoulder checks. I mean, he jacked him up with and there's no padding, and that's all bone right there. So and the MMA gloves, there's not really difference. And with my face, the past couple fights, I've always get cut up or bloody, so bare knuckle wouldn't be any different. So I'm excited for it. Plus the pay-per-view, big promotion, it's growing.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I know definitely, like, as a musician, I think interest would be cool to play at, because I've played at like
you played the Cotillion, right?
I haven't played at the Cotillion. I played at the Orpheum before, and big stages like that are fun to play on. I don't know if how much like there is a performance element necessarily to your fight, or if you're really just focused in the zone, just right on that person. But being on big stages like that can be really, really fun, as long as you're not like super stage fright.
That's kind of what I was wondering too. Is are you focused more on the fight or your opponent, or are you focused on what's going on around you? I know Conor McGregor. He talked about they were talking about doing fights with no audience. Do that because he had so much off of the crowd's energy.
I mean,
but I wasn't sure if you're the same way, or if it's
happened before. I have gotten distracted, but 9 times out of 10, every time in my fights, you got a guy in there that's physically trying to hurt you, and the only way out is either getting knocked out, submitted, or you physically tap out. But no, you get really focused on there. And I hear people, I turn red, or I black out when I fight. When you get to fighting professionally, you know your details. You keep your hands up.
Yeah, stay focused. But
there's things that you don't turn black out. But I mean, the punching game does make you kind of get a little drunk punch, and it does happen at times where you lose control.
Yeah. Well, that's the main thing, is like, especially if your face is getting destroyed, it's like a bit hard to see, a bit hard to hear, a bit hard to do anything. So it's just kind of like you kind of lose focus then. And
there was one time where I was fighting a gentleman named Alex McGowan, and I thought he was going to take me down, and I was training takedowns, and he ended up not really taking me down. And you hear some in the crowd, "How did I lose on points?" And I looked back, and I was just like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that." And sometimes I've caught myself, like, I'll look up at the time, and the funniest one was well, there's two. One was Dana White did come to one of our fights at the Century 2.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
I did get to win in front of him, and even before then, like, in the cage, I was kind of looking at him when we were getting around the corner, but I kind of got punched up, so it was like a little bit more focused than that time. But most of the time you're focused. You'll see fighters, they'll get distracted from little things.
Because I know I've definitely heard that's a make or break sometimes in fights. People get way too distracted on the crowd and not on the actual fight. They just get demolished. So
there was one incident, I forgot the fighter's name, but I guess his mom was yelling at him, and he turned over and he was like, "I'm fine, Mom." Like, during the whole fight, he was getting punched, and like incident.
He's getting his ass beat from his mother.
No, usually, we're pretty much focused on what's going on.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking cool though. Yeah, especially because Dana White was there. I would never expected Dana White to be in.
The one thing that almost scared me about that fight is my bout was going to get canceled because my opponent came in at 10 pounds or 11 pounds up. And legally, you can't, at the moment, I believe I was not allowed to fight him if he was 8 pounds over. The weight class, they just didn't allow it. I'm not too sure exactly how they have it. Long story short, I knew I had to gain, it was like 5 or 6 pounds, 5 or 6, 7 pounds, and weigh again. And I only had 20 minutes to do it. And I just weighed in, and this was for the fight for the Dana White in front. I was so pissed off, and I was just like, my coach was like, "Shut up, get the water, start drinking." And I put on the 5 or 6, 7, 8 pounds I needed to get on, and
just the water. That's insane.
My gut was stuck out, like, because that was all that I was basically starved. I was ready to weigh in. I was at the point, and yeah, so I had to catch up to weigh-in with him, and then yeah, it was nice to actually beat him up in front of Dana after doing that because that was
Well, yeah,
like,
as I say, that's kind of cool. It's like you had like so many struggles on the way, and you had to do it in front of like an idol, and it was like still went out there and fucked him up.
the roughest thing is when you weigh in and then you're already full on water.
Yeah.
You know, and we did the weigh-ins at like Twin Peaks or something like that. So there's food everywhere, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to throw up with water.
Yeah.
And-
Well,
Yeah.
want to call it right about there?
Yeah, it is 7 o'clock, and I don't hold you too long.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
things going on.
Cool.
But
Yeah, I'll be going live here, going out. I know the protest will be kicking off here probably right now, so I'll probably have to go around and find where they're at. But man, it was awesome to talk to you guys. I hate
Yeah, you too.
We'll have to do this
stuff.
again sometime.
Definitely, man.
Yeah.
I would love to come on here and talk some more. I first podcast, so and I appreciate it
Yeah.
because not you guys are helping individuals, third parties get their voice out, and it's
Yeah,
stuff like
I
this
mean,
that does it. So.
to be
something
honest-
I mean, I told you through Facebook, but that's something I want to try and do around here is like actually just bring in whether it's other politicians and they're even if they're not libertarians, you can be a
Yeah,
fucking
just-
Democrat, you can be a fucking Republican, or
Get
artists,
everyone's point.
musicians, things like that. Just bring on people locally.
Yeah.
Definitely. No, yeah. And I got a couple couple buddies that are on a podcast, I think, right now, Sprout and Dusty. I don't know if you ever heard of those guys before, but no, they're a local musician that's do a podcast, and
That's
those
cool.
guys are cool. But no, I've learned to watch from them, and he's always told me some stuff like, all right, yeah, just it's fun in there. Don't worry about it, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
one thing I always worry about when I get to podcasts. Like, oh no, what if I don't know what to say? What if I can't bring
Yeah.
anything up?
When I had KWCH camera in my face earlier, I was just like, oh god, there's a camera in my face. I'm not behind it, and I'm like, all right, I'm not as comfortable, but all right, we can talk here.
yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, when you're on camera, it's especially if it's really you're the main focal point. It's a lot harder to operate.
When you're
But
talking, yeah.
when you're talking-
Talking-wise, it's never a bad problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. When we would play live, when we were playing, cameras aren't the end. Yeah.
Going, so.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a lot easier when you're actually genuinely having a conversation with somebody versus they're asking you questions and you feel like you're being interrogated.
Yeah.
So
Awesome,
yeah,
man.
that's kind of what I try to avoid because I worry about that before podcasts. Like what happens?
Oh no!
I don't-
Yeah.
I love the questions. I was up for any and everything. I always still am. Hopefully,
Cool.
do a question A down the future for the campaign. So
Yeah,
I know
for
that
sure.
People
Yeah.
that probably have some questions.
I
and
shared that
other
on my
stuff,
Facebook page beforehand, or when you brought it up. So that'll be up there too.
And
So-
again, I'll be out tomorrow at the Kennebash. The event is on the Facebook page on Liberty ICT. I might be getting pushed out at 2 o'clock because I might be going to another event at 12:30 or 1. But
Okay.
I still will be out there. I just have it at 1 o'clock at the moment. I'm gonna fix that, but I might be there at 1:30. I'm gonna keep it safe and just say 2 because it's gonna go on for some time at the Kennebash, and there's gonna be a couple candidates out there
Yeah.
also. So
Cool.
So
cool.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks
that
for
was a lot of
taking
fun,
time
though.
today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Guys. Seriously, I appreciate it.